Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Roy Potter. It's still the 24th of June, 2020, and basically this is a follow-up analysis and commentary on the demonstration that happened in Salt Lake City today that I gave you the live stream on earlier. And I'm still dressed the same way I was then. I really didn't have a chance to change into a little better, shirt and tie, but I figure this is the way to go for tonight. It's really hot too, and I've got this light on, and it's even hotter. It was close to 100 degrees today. But at any rate, let me get with what's going on here. For a long time now, as I've been talking, I have felt that the police have done the wrong thing with the use of force. It used to be back when I was a police officer that we had a use of force continuum. In other words, an escalation of force, and the requirement was that you use the minimum amount of force necessary to control a situation. Well, I have objected to the fact that the police have not been doing that for a number of years. And a lot of police will get upset at me for saying that, but my training and my experience in everything that I did was that that badge didn't protect me. It was supposed to protect the public. And just like with a lot of other things I do, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, none of us can say for sure what we do in a situation where we're not there. But I can tell you that I've been in situations where I could have shot suspects and I did not. Okay? But that's an individual decision. And of course, it could have gone bad for me. A couple of times it almost did. But at the same time, I think that there are use of force guidelines that are probably a little bit too loose. Is that the case in this shooting? I don't know. It's still being investigated by the DA's office, the district attorney's office, and I don't want to give a whole lot of details about what happened as far as whether the officers were justified or not, other than to say that if I have a suspect that has pointed a gun at me and had just pointed a gun at somebody else when the call came in to the police for help, and that person was running away, it's very likely, it's very possible that I may have shot them, okay, because they are a danger to other people. They've already tried to do something to someone, but I don't know all the particulars right now, so I'm not going to say exactly what should have happened. I'm just going to comment on what the news said about the situation. Of course, you know how that is, okay? So we have these Black Lives Matter and Antifa demonstrations all over the country. About 4 weeks ago, they tipped over a police car in this same location over this shooting incident. Okay, so they are capable of escalating, and they are escalating. They're using every possible reason and excuse to escalate this Maoist insurrection. And they come after the police first. So that's why I'm a little cautious here, of course. All right. So while I believe that the use of force continuum should go to the minimum amount of force necessary to control a situation, at the same time, I realize that a suspect that's fleeing with a gun that's used it already, whether he's fired it or not, it's probably a better thing to take him out than not. But let's look at some of the circumstances here and see what happens. By the way, this is very similar to the incident I believed it happened in Texas. I'm not sure where it was, and I'm sorry I don't recall, but you may have seen the video where these officers stopped a guy. I guess he was asleep in the car or whatever, and they approached him, got him out, started talking to him, and then he started fighting with them and tried to get their gun, but did get a taser, and he pointed the taser at the officer. I think he actually even fired it, and the officer then shot him at that point, and I think he was running away as well. Well, I said in that same situation that the problem is that with the taser, just like a month before that, the district attorney in that area filed charges against police officers for using tasers and saying that it was a deadly force situation when they used the tasers. But then he reversed himself when the suspect now had the officer's taser and said that it wasn't deadly force. Well, frankly, if somebody took my taser and they used it on me, the next step is they might come for my service weapon, so I'm going to shoot them. That's just the way it's going to be, okay? And that was kind of what I look at in this situation here. It was probably very similar to that. But let's look at some of the background information. I'm going to read this to you right from the Salt Lake Tribune so that you know some basic background information. And I'm not certain that the reporting is accurate. I do have some inside sources in the DA's office, but I'm not going to, of course, talk about that. And they haven't talked to me about it. They just said that they're looking at it. Okay. All right. This is the story. On the night of May 23rd this year, Palacios Carbajal was on probation after being convicted of robbery. So he had already been convicted of a felony robbery. Court documents state he pulled a gun, racked it, and held it to another guy's head during that incident, during the robbery. The law says he could have received 1 to 15 years in prison. The judge sentenced him, get this, to 30 days and probation. What? There's the first problem right there. Family and friends say his criminal history is not relevant to what happened. They do make a good point here. And police would not have known that information at the time of the chase and the shooting. Probably true. But Bertram says, this is an officer that the Salt Lake Tribune is interviewing, who's had like 30 years as a police officer. But Bertram says that history likely influenced what Palacios did next. He's a convicted felon, said Bertram. He's old enough to understand having that firearm in his possession is a minimum of 5 years in federal prison, which Bertram says could be the reason Palacios chose to run from police. Officers, this is what they were first called for, okay, when Palacios was shot. Officers were investigating a report of an aggravated robbery outside the Trails Gentlemen's Club, 921 South 300 West. In the body camera video, officers spot a man in the parking lot who took off running when police arrived, ultimately leading police on a foot chase in what would be the final 60 seconds of Palacios' life. From the moment officers engaged in the chase, their actions will be investigated, evaluated, and scrutinized. One officer can be heard warning the others, he's got a gun in his pocket, he's reaching. Remember, the call that they had was a man with the gun and he had pointed it with somebody, okay? So that had already happened. So the officers are saying, and you can hear in the body camera footage, the officers are yelling, show me your hands, drop it, drop it, drop it, show me your hands. 17 times the police ordered him to do that. He did not comply. In the final moments of Palacios, as Palacios stumbles and gets up, because apparently he fell, still trying to escape, one officer can be heard yelling to use non-lethal force. Tase him, tase him, tase him. But within seconds of that plea, at least 20 rounds are fired as officers shot Palacios in the back. Body cam video, and shooting somebody in the back is very easy to do depending upon, if he had a lot of different reasons that can happen. Personally, as an officer, I never did that. I could have on several occasions. I never did. But again, every situation is different, so I don't want to say that was wrong in this case, at least not at this point. I don't know enough information. You have to put yourself in the position of that officer at that time, said Bertram after watching the full video. And the investigator from the KSL investigator, that's the radio or television station, asks Bertram, do you believe, in light of everything that's going on today, that this is a race issue or a police brutality issue? With regards to this, I do not think that it's a race issue or a police brutality issue, is what he says. Absolutely not. These are very dynamic situations and they change very quickly. And the fact that he has a gun, the gun is out, it's not concealed, puts him at an advantage. And you have to keep in mind that his actions are going to be quicker than the police officer's reactions. Section 300-.5 of Salt Lake City Police Policy states, the use of deadly force is justified to stop a fleeing suspect if the officer has probable cause to believe that there is an imminent risk of serious bodily injury or death to any other person if the subject is not immediately apprehended. An imminent danger may exist even if the suspect is not at the very moment pointing a weapon at someone. And that's going to be the crux of whether or not they're going to change the policy in Salt Lake. Again, I've been in those situations myself. He was shot something like 13 to 20 times, something like that. which I think, again, in a situation like that, that seems awfully excessive, but we've seen that before. Under these situations, you get what's called, I forget the exact name, but it's kind of panic or emotional driven fire. One officer fires, or one soldier fires, and another one does. It's a reaction. I forget the exact name of it. It's been too long since I've been there, but some of you might know. So fire control is very important. That's one thing the police departments aren't very good at is fire control. Who can fire, who cannot. You can have your weapon drawn, but maybe there should be some type of delegation of who can actually fire their weapon under the circumstances, and that could be done by a supervisor, the senior officer present or whatever. So there are some things. The military does that, for instance. But at any rate, my take on this is that the suspect had a gun. He had already pulled it on somebody. He had a prior robbery. Of course, the officers don't know that at this point. But this night he did. He had pointed a gun at somebody, was in the process of fleeing when the officers told him to stop. They believed he had a gun, which he did. And as he's going away, you never see, apparently in the video, the body cam footage of him pointing the weapon at the officers. Again, I'm not certain I would have gone there. But according to the situation as we are hearing about it, where this guy is actually a danger to somebody, there's a very good possibility that actually shooting him was the right thing to do. 20 times, well, if one or two don't do it, it seems like a little excessive. But at that point, he's probably not alive anyway. That's a terrible thing to say, but that's just kind of how you got to look at it. So at any rate, the real problem with all of this, of course, is that I know that the police have the FBI, for instance, look what they've done to General Flynn. And today, of course, you heard that, first of all, the appellate court said that they needed the judge, Sullivan, had to dismiss the case. And then in a bizarre situation, the judge's a judge, says that he's filing with the appeals court to argue that they shouldn't have made that decision. This is bizarre. I've never heard of this thing happening before, and if it has, it's wrong. Especially in this situation. But the deep state pulls these things. So we know that the FBI is dirty. I know that they're dirty. I know that there are a lot of police officers and departments that are dirty. We've seen it, and I do believe that there has to be some better controls. But to do it from the federal level and certainly from the UN level, I'm not certain that's good. The federal level already has civil rights violations laws in place. I'm not certain that they should be dictating what happens on the street. That's just my opinion, but that doesn't matter at this point because I don't have any input. If they are going to put out guidelines, I don't think that they should be enforceable. Again, falling back on civil rights violations is the way to go, but significant improvements in training and assistance in that, yeah, maybe so. I'll volunteer. All right. A tragic situation in Salt Lake, but remember, the Maoist insurrectionists will use these things to their advantage, and their goal is to destroy this country, and doing it to the police at this point is part of the process. So police officers out there, maybe you should go back to your use of force continuum from back in the 70s and 80s, where you use the minimum amount of force necessary to control a situation. That's probably the safest bet of all. Okay, not saying that these officers acted inappropriately. I don't know all the circumstances. On the surface, a guy with a gun fleeing that's already pulled it on somebody, yeah, I'd probably shoot him. Just like the situation with those police officers where the suspect got the taser away. And I know there are a lot of people arguing with me on that, but chances are you've never been in a situation like that. So the suspect, as far as I'm concerned, his life is not important at that point in time as innocent people, including the police officer. So that's the way I'm going to stick with it. All right, well, that's just a real quick rundown. I might tell you again that I was shadow-tailed. When I was there, they recognized that I wasn't part of the group, and I've been told by other people that I just have the air of a cop. Well, no wonder, 28 years, right? So they kind of picked me out as soon as I got there, and they put tails on me right away. One was a woman, and then there were two black guys who were the muscle dudes. And the black woman did finally confront me and thought that it was bad that I had commented all on the shooting while I was doing the live stream. So anyway, then she tried to give me a sign to carry, and I said, no, I'm leaving. So that's where it was. Her muscle guys didn't bother me. They followed me almost all the way back to my car. Of course, I took a different route away from my car so that they wouldn't figure out which one it was. And then I circled around and went back to it and then left. Alrighty, well, stand by. I'm going to show you some more footage of the demonstration from tonight. And you'll probably see this on the morning, late evening of the 24th, that's tonight, or early morning on the 25th. We've had some problems with the internet here, so I don't know how it's going to get up, how long it'll take. But we probably will still have a live stream in the morning where we can discuss things on chat, I think. Okay? We'll see. Don't bet on it. It depends on when I get to bed. All right, out here for now, but I have the additional video footage of the demonstration right now. Here we go. Okay, well, I'm down in Salt Lake City. There's a demonstration tonight against the police. This is the DA's office. You can see the signs that have been put up. And I guess about a month ago, someone was shot by the police, even though they were shooting at the cops. And the cops shot back. These people are upset about it. The guy was shooting at the police, then was running away, but he still had a weapon, I guess. And they took him out. So here we are at the demonstration. Sorry I'm out of breath. I just ran several blocks. Had to park quite a bit away, so I didn't have a problem with my car. So I'll show you a little bit of this. It looks peaceful so far, but they've blocked off. This is Main Street, I believe. There are probably, I'm guessing 500 people here. Several hundred anyway. So we'll see what they're doing. I'm looking for some specific things. Let's see if we can find them. So here we go. Have 6 South blocked off down there on Main Street. That's the Matheson Courthouse right there. Okay, I'm going to be looking for some things. There's BLM there. Yeah, that lady I showed you was shadow banning me. I'm sorry, I used to shadow banning me. Shadowing me. Yeah, she came up and said, "You don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Well, yeah, you know, I'm from Wyoming. I'm just trying to figure this out." told you they think I was a cop. I have a son-in-law who tells me, you know, when I go into bars and stuff, people seem to quiet down. He says, well, it's because you look badass. You look like a cop. Yeah, this is the DA's office here, like I was telling you. Apparently, the DA's office did the investigation of the shooting and said it was justified. I don't know all the details, but like I said, if a guy's shooting, he has a gun, he's shooting at you, you shoot him until he goes down. I guess there's some question about he was missing some fingers when they picked him up from the morgue or whatever. I don't know about that. So they're going to take over Main Street here. It looks like they're going to walk right up Main Street. Okay, well, if it turns into mayhem and all that great stuff later, I don't really feel like sticking around for it. Sorry, I can't show you all that. All right, so chewing my gum to make me look a little normal. Maybe it didn't work. Like I say, I look so much like a cop, plus I'm so much older than the group that was there. Well, there were a couple of old codgers, but they made me out to be a cop. I knew they would. They had 3 people shadowing me right off the bat. That one girl I showed you, right after I finished live streaming, she came up and was telling me I should find out more about the situation before I start talking about it. So that's the story. You know, they've even got this area here cordoned off because I guess they're going to come back down this way. These guys got a tough job with this. And I don't even have a whole lot of respect for Salt Lake City PD, but I can tell you some stories about how they, when I was on Murray, how they didn't support us. But at any rate, okay, well, that's all for now. I guess they're going to come down this road here. Just wanted to give you a little heads up and a little information out here for now.